Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. So today we will presenting about the cellulose on the definitions, on the structure, physical properties, analysis, processing, and also the application of cellulose. So we are from the group 6. The presenter for this topic is me, Ain Syedkan Kamal. My match number is 194527. My group member, which is Waisong, and also Kiarash Hussein Zadeh.
I'm Wais Yong and my matrix number is 194198. So allow me to define cellulose. Cellulose consists of hundreds or thousands of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen atoms. So from the diagram, we can see that the carbon chains of cellulose is linked together by hydrogen bonds and forming the lattice arrangement, which forms the cellulose fibers. It is also a linear semi-crystalline polymer with both crystalline and amorphous region. From both the picture, the crystalline cellulose consists of the straight chains of cellulose, while the amorphous cellulose region will be the bending chains of cellulose.
Hello, my name is Kiarash Zadeh. My metric number 195574. I want to talk about the cellulose analysis and structure. Thousands of the glucose submitted are what make up the cellulose. Bit 1-4 glycoside bonds link the glucose submitted in cellulose. G bonds 2020 state that unlike other polysaccharide glucose molecules, orientation in the cellulose is reserved. The molecules have bits the orientation where the hydroxide group of the atomic carbon or carbon number on this directed above the plane of the cellular glucose rings. Directed below the plane of the ring are the hydroxyl groups of the rest of the carbon atoms. Okay, we see the figure 1 atomic structure of the cellulose. Every alternated glucose molecule in cellulose is inverted for the beta 1-4 glucose bonds to be made. The directed upward is the hydroxyl groups of the carbon 1 and as for the group of the carbon 4. It is the directed downward. One of these molecules should be inverted to make a bit 1-4 glycoside bonds of the both the hydrogen groups come in the same plane. This is why every alternate glucose molecule in cellulose is inverted. Plant cells have the cellulose present in them in the form of the cellulose microbolus, political or the cellulose matrix are formed as a result of this microfibrils begin together.
So first of all, about the physical properties of the cellulose. First is about the appearance of the cellulose, which is the cellulose is odorless and white powdery fibers. Second, physical properties of cellulose is the solubility. Cellulose is insoluble in water. However, it is soluble in organic solvent and chemical degradation in sulfuric acid. Meanwhile, for the density of the cellulose, for the crystalline phase, the density is 1.59 gram per cm cube. Meanwhile, from the natural samples of cellulose, the value is 1.55 gram per cm cube. This is correspond to the 70% of the crystalline phase in the natural samples. Next, on the strength properties of the cellulose, first is about the Young modulus in the cellulose. For the values of Young modulus for the cellulose is 10.3 gigapascal for the amorphous cellulose. Meanwhile, for the elementary cellulose fiber of bleach rami fiber, the value is 134 gigapascal. Meanwhile, for the specific stiffness of the cellulose, the value is 67 gigapascal cm cube per gram, which is among the highest value of all natural materials. This value is very compete well with the steel such as aluminium. Meanwhile, for the ultimate tensile strength, the value is 13 to 17 gigapascal. This value indicate that cellulose 1, which is native cellulose, is strongest lemma form.
So now I will continue on cellulose processing. The cellulose can be synthesized biologically through plants or bacteria. In plants, cellulose can be found abundantly in the cell wall of the plants. The cellulose is synthesized at the plasma membrane by the rosette terminal complex, which contains cellulose synthase. So the rosette terminal complex is bind towards the plasma membrane and will produce cellulose chain by using a type of glucose, namely UDP glucose. As in bacteria, cellulose synthase is also contained in bacteria, which is named as the bacteria cellulose synthase, and it will produce cellulose by consuming food. For example, in the paper making process, the wood is being undergone various procedures to make paper. So at the beginning, the wood is being chopped and will be undergo debarking and chipping process, where the wood is being shredded or chopped into smaller pieces. Then the wooden chips will undergo popping process. In the popping process, the wooden chips are being cooked or remove the lignin to release cellulose. Then the wood pulps will undergo cleaning or bleaching process, where the wood pulp is being cleaned or being bleached into for the whitening of the wood pulps for following processes. Then the wood pulp is going to undergo paper making process to make papers. So this is the diagram for paper making. So we can see at the bottom here, there's a wood, there's a forest. After the forest tree had been chopped down, it will undergo debarking and chipping process to becoming wood chips. Then it will undergo pulping process, which also have two types of methods, which is the mechanical and the chemical pulping methods. Then it will undergo bleaching or cleaning process before it enters the paper making process. You can see there's another line for recycled paper where it undergoes pulping process directly and followed by de-inking process where it removes the inks. Then it will be the same as the normal wood pulps that will enter the cleaning or bleaching and finally to the paper making process. So for pulping, there are two types, which is the mechanical and the chemical. For mechanical, it uses mechanical power to degrade the wood and remove the lignin. High energy is being consumed in this process, and for the product, it is yellowish in color and is suitable for printing products such as magazines. while for chemical pulping, it uses chemicals to cook the wood chips to remove the lignin and to release the cellulose. It uses acid or alkaline, and it has the advantage of chemical recovery and pulp strength. However, it has the environmental issue where it will release toxic gases. So this is the microbial cellulose production, whereby cellulose is being produced by bacteria with the help of with the consuming of food for the bacteria. So the cellulose will consume food and produce cellulose chain. The cellulose chain will combine and form microfibrils and finally to fibrillar ribbons. So you can see the fibrillar ribbons is a thicker substance which then can be handled, can be extracted and handled. So the part A is the biosynthesis of cellulose by the microbial, while the part B is the downstream process where the substance produced by bacteria is being uh, manufactured into products. So you can see the substance is being extracted and undergo purification process and finally drying process. There are two types of drying process, which is oven dry and freeze dry. So cellulose produced from microbial is normally used to produce textiles. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thermogrammetric TGA and the thermal analysis. Using the techniques of the TGA and the different thermal analysis DTA between room temperature and the 600 Celsius, the thermal degradation of the different sample of the cellulose have been investigated. Indicated by the result calculated from the static and the dynamic TGA, that the activation energy for thermal degradation for different cellulose sample in the range of 36-16 kilocalorie divided by mole, and atomic temperature around the 100 Celsius in atomic freeze of the following nitrogen and the oxygen air was shown by the DTA of the all the wood compacting their cellulose was the status. The entropic nadir and the stomatic peak were at the 320 and 360 Celsius respectively.
Cellulose has been used in various industries to make it into different products or added to improve the strength of the products to its property. So these are four applications for the cellulose in the industry. First, in paper making industry, which is cellulose is used because it can form physical and chemical bonds with other fibers as it transitions from a wet to a dry state. And also because of the properties of the cellulose, which is has high tensile strength, water insoluble and colorless, making it suitable for paper making. Next industry is on the textile industry, where variety of textile ranging from thick denim of corduroy to light muslin or organza are made from the cellulose, such as hemp, linen, cotton, remi, and sisal are the examples of cellulose fibers. Next industry is on the biofuels industry, where the fungal cellulose is used to play an important part in the enzymatic hydrolysis of cellulosic polymers to provide monomeric fermentable sugars for the production of biofuels, which is examples of biofuels is bioethanol. And the last industry that use cellulose for as the application of cellulose, which is the insulation, of the electrical wiring by using that paper from the cellulose, because the cellulose is resistant to the conduction of heat. Okay, that's all for the application of the cellulose.